Hello and welcome to the Empowered by Claudia podcast, where we explore all things self-development. Here you'll discover practical tools, tips and strategies to help you feel more confident, empowered and in control of your life. I'm Claudia, I'm your host, I'm a registered nurse and mindset coach, fear of success instructor, and most importantly, your guide on your self-development journey. I know firsthand how confusing and overwhelming and isolating this path can feel. So I created this podcast so you never have to navigate it alone. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Empowered by Claudia podcast. So I was mid-recording this, had a huge brainwave about a future guest, got really excited, paused recording and sent the person a voice message. And so I am going to pause that thought and I'm going to give a slightly different episode in the hope that this person will want to be on the podcast. And if not, we can talk about something slightly differently then. But so today I am going to talk about creating the retreat within and how we can create our own peace in everyday little moments. And this train of thought was prompted with my intro really was that, life can feel really heavy, particularly if you are quite empathic, empathetic, not entirely sure which one, I will check. So empathetic. So we are in a very connected world. If I think about, I'm regularly getting updates on my phone, whether it's suggested Instagram posts, suggested threads, suggested Facebook posts, breaking news, even though I've stopped the push notifications from like the news apps, but I still seem to find out somehow. And it's really hard to keep positive, to keep uplifted when we are constantly faced with negativity. And you know me, I talk a lot about not subscribing to toxic positivity. Like it's not that everything's grand and everything's perfect all of the time, but it's about how we protect our own peace. And you can be aware of what's going on with the world without being completely overwhelmed. And I was thinking back to when I first qualified as a nurse. I lived in nursing accommodation and we didn't have internet. So if I wanted to go on the internet, I would have to walk 15 minutes or so to get to the hospital, go to the library and use one of the shared computers there. I didn't have a TV, so I could listen to the radio potentially, and hear the headlines there. But unless I actively sought that out or went on the computer or saw the news in the break room at work, I wouldn't know what necessarily was going on. It wouldn't be constantly in my face, pinging on my phone, go, this is happening, panic, panic, panic. And we can get really caught up in the narrative. And even if we aren't necessarily consciously doing that, we will subconsciously soak it in. And even conversations that you might overhear when you're going to the shops. Myself and Ed went out for a meal on Friday and the people at the table next to us immediately sat down, looked at the menu and complained about the prices. Now, I always check the menus before I go anywhere because I'm such a fussy eater and because of Ed's allergies. And we knew that there was an offer, and actually the offer was essentially you pay the same price for a main that you would for 2 courses. And so I can see why they were thinking that was expensive, but also kind of we've made the intention of coming out for a meal. This is something we don't do all the time. And I think it's something that it's like I have a bit of a bugbear. Like if you're going to eat the cake, don't moan about the calories because you ruin it for everybody else, So like if you're like, right, I'm going to have a slice of cake, enjoy it. Don't sit there and go, I'm going to have a slice of cake, but oh gosh, that is a lot of calories and it's not really healthy. And because that is going to be going now into everybody else's minds and you're not just ruining your own experience of that. You are potentially impacting other people's experience and enjoyment of that. So this is what I mean about it's really easy to get extra conflicting opinions or views of the world without even really seeking them or realizing really. It's this kind of constant narrative that how things are phrased. Also, it tends to be that with like targeted advertising that you engage with one type of content and then that's all you see because the phones are constantly listening and watching and they're like, okay, so she engaged with that, so I'm going to show her more of that. And it's like, actually, hello, I would not really like to see that anymore. I want to see something else. But we have to go out of our comfort zone and look for it. And it's the same with peace, but actually we have to make this a habit. We have to set ourselves up for success, to have little routines that bring those snippets of peace in our daily lives so that when it does become overwhelming and just too much, that we have somewhere to retreat to. We have that retreat within and we can create our own peace. And that is what I'm going to talk to you about today. You know, ultimately, we have been through so much in recent years and we know what is going on around the world instantly. There's not a time lag. We don't have to wait for news to come via snail mail or anything like that. We know things immediately, and that is exhausting, really, really exhausting. So I have just been really conscious. I suppose it's the years since I've done my coaching training and then all the self-development and personal improvement I do as a result to continue development. I'm very conscious about the words we say and mindset and how we reframe things. Also that we're not islands, that we can focus as much as we want on improving ourselves, improving our circumstances, but we're still going to be influenced to a certain extent by the situation around us. So whether that's the people that we surround ourselves with, whether that is what's happening in our local town or city or country, whether that is our financial situation, particularly with increasing costs and things like that. There are so many things beyond what is in our control that will impact ours and our well-being and our peace ultimately. So with this podcast, I've always wanted to help us understand ourselves and give ourselves that compassion and that grace rather than having some idealized view that as long, as long as you think positive, everything will be okay. Because actually that's not necessarily the case. It's about how we cope with challenges and how we pick ourselves back up and having those resources, that resilience, that is what I hope to bring to you with this podcast. And, we all have different challenges and experiences. We have different societal expectations depending on where we grew up, where we live, any cultural pressures, health challenges. They might be invisible, other people might not see them from the outside. We might have generational trauma or traumas of our own that we are healing from. There are so many things going on. So what I hope to create is a little bit of calm for you, that you can take some of these tips and create your own cocoon of calm, shall we say, that you can just retreat to when things get overwhelming and overstimulating and you think, do you know what? I just need some peace. I need to protect my peace. So on that, a lot of the weight that we feel, that pressure, is invisible. You can look at another person and you don't see that. You might see that they've got bags under their eyes, that they've got a really strong frown line, that their face looks sad, that their posture is dejected. But we're very good at masking, aren't we? We're very good at putting makeup on, putting a smile on and pretending everything's okay. Answering the how are you with, yeah, great, thanks, or fine, thanks, and not really digging beneath the surface. And this invisible weight can really drag us down. And a lot of it isn't just the massive to-do list that we've got, the responsibilities that we might have. It's the systems that we are living in, working in, they are not designed to support us. Workplaces are not really set up for our well-being. and for our resilience. Because ultimately we have this huge drive to productivity. This was the fight I had quite often, was that, in my opinion, when you treat people well and you look after them, they will work harder, and be more productive than people who are stressed and burnt out and constantly on edge waiting to have done something wrong. But that is more of a long-term strategy rather than the quick wins of kind of saying to everyone, come on, guys, like pick up the pace, pick up the pace. But, if you take an hour out to have some supervision like I was doing, or, and take that time to really think about it, that might prevent that person from going off sick, for example, for weeks. But it's one of those things that you can't always see the impact of the intervention because you've done the intervention, so you've stopped that chain of events from happening. So what I'm trying to say is that we have so much pressure and expectation on us, and we don't necessarily always name it. We will feel that we're tired and overwhelmed, but sometimes it can feel really hard to really pinpoint exactly what the problem is, exactly what is tipping us over the edge. And so it might be thinking, okay, so what are my signs that I'm struggling? It may be that I'm feeling a bit irritable. It might be that I can't really think straight. It might be that I don't want to do something that I would normally enjoy doing. And so just really thinking about what are signs that I'm not 100% okay. It might not be as extreme as these are signs that I'm burning out and I can't cope. It might, but what are these little signs that actually, do you know what? Need to take a minute and really think about what those signs may be. And they're going to be our prompt, because when we next feel that, we're going to make a plan to take ourselves off to get peace. Now, that might not always be possible. For example, you may be stuck in a traffic jam. We've got so many roadworks going on at the moment. Everywhere I go, it's traffic, traffic, traffic. That is not the time to do a meditation because you need to have your attention on the road. But it may be when I get to where I'm going, I'm going to sit in the car for 5 minutes before I actually get out because I'm late anyway. So I might as well just calm myself and reset. Or when I get home, I'm going to run myself a bath and I'm going to relax, or I'm going to read a bit of my favorite book, or something that you're planning. So it might not be that you get your peace immediately, but let's plan it in for today. Let's not delay it till tomorrow. Let's find some peace today. So by acknowledging what our signs of needing peace are, we can then tailor that to what we might need. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're going to want something that is low effort. You don't want something that's got lots of stages. It might be that you want to pamper yourself and think, all right, I'll give myself a home facial. But if that's got like 5 different potions that you use in specific orders and that's going to be stressful, then that's not ideal. Instead, it might be, I'm going to put a really nourishing, like, leave-on face mask, overnight face mask or something, because that's got 1 step. And I put it on and I get it and I can wash it off in the morning. But as I said, this is where you get to tweak this to what you need, what brings you peace. Is peace laughing at a comedy? Is peace calm, being with friends, being outside in nature, being with a partner, being with a pet? What is going to bring you peace? And it might vary from day to day. So I really want you to get excited about creating a little list of things that bring you peace, so that the next time you feel yourself getting overwhelmed and stressed with negativity and pressure and expectation, that you can go, actually, do you know what? I'm going to do these things, these little things. And earlier today, I read a research article. It's a systematic review, which is where they look at all of the research data, so different trials and studies on a certain topic, and then they come up with overall themes and recommendations. And this was about different well-being, I'm going to say modalities, so things that you can do to support your well-being, be it yoga, be it physical activity, be it connectedness, be it psychological interventions. And they basically found that there wasn't a clear winner, particularly. It was the thing that really shone through was doing something, no matter how small, regularly. So, yes, going on a spa day, and my friends are going to not appreciate me saying this because we all know I love a spa, but going on a spa day once a year is not the key to your well-being. It's great, but it needs to be something that you can do daily or every other day, something that you can have and use when you need it. And I will never turn down a spa day. Of course not. But it has to be something practical. So if you can create yourself that 5 minutes piece, whether it is listening to a guided meditation, whether it is doing a few yoga stretches, whether it is doing, I don't know, 15 jumping jacks, what could be listening to your favorite song, a song that instantly boosts your mood, transports you to the place, happy memories. It could be having a nice calming drink, like a hot chocolate or a cup of tea or something, whatever it is, like whatever is going to give you that peace in that moment. That is what I want you to really focus on. Because ultimately, we can't control the things that we're exposed to in life. Even if we put ourselves in a bubble, we would still be aware to some extent, what is going on around us. And we'd be impacted by what's going on around us. We do not live in isolation. And so having strategies that we can tap into that ideally are free, that are readily available to us, that is going to help us cope with all of the unpredictability of daily life. So, this is why I called this episode The Retreat Within, because this is your retreat. This is personal to you. This is your personal private space where you get to retreat to restore yourself, to shut out the outside world. And yes, we've got to go back into the world, but hopefully with a much calmer heart, a heart that's at peace. And look, I get it. I feel overwhelmed at times. My clients definitely feel overwhelmed, which is why they've come to me. But that is not a failing. It is your mind just responding to the constant external stimuli that we're being presented with. So these small moments of calm, they will ripple through your day. I remember one of my clients saying that a huge thing that had changed in between our coaching sessions was that moment when she woke up and would think, okay, it's going to be a good day. Because before, you wake up thinking, I've barely slept, baby's been up all night, I'm exhausted. And that sets your day off in a tone because your brain is automatically looking for things to prove that that was the correct thought. It's called confirmation bias. And instead, if you just take a pause, think, okay, I'm awake, and just think, okay, so how do I want to feel? How do I want today to go? Today is a new day, as cheesy as that might sound, but we get to choose. We get to choose to invite peace in. We get to choose how we respond to the things that we are hearing and seeing in the outside world. Now, sometimes we can't put our heads in the sand and avoid daily pressures. But this can just help us reset and recenter and protect ourselves from some of that external negativity. So if it feels right and if it's safe to do so, you might want to close your eyes and take a couple moments to imagine what your retreat within would look like. So where is your safe space, even if it is just your mind? To be honest, that's pretty good because it's portable. Whereas if your safe space is like a swinging chair in the garden or your favorite spot on the sofa or tucked up in bed, it's not necessarily as portable, but there's no shade on that. So wherever your safe space is. And then think about a small act that would bring peace that you could offer yourself today. It doesn't have to cost much, if anything. It could be getting snuggled under a blanket with a book for 2 minutes. Maybe it's sitting, having a hot drink, whatever it is, thinking about how you can factor in time to reclaim your peace, to reset, to retreat within. If it's, Harry struggles to go to sleep, and sometimes it's not until 10:30 at night when he actually drops off. At that point, I am absolutely drained. I just want to go to sleep. But I do try and unwind because if I try to go straight to bed, then I will inevitably just end up scrolling on my phone or stewing over things in my mind. So I try and take myself into the bathroom and do a beauty regime, wash my face, tone, put some moisturizer on. At least that it kind of breaks the cycle. It gives me something else to focus on. It is a quick win because I feel like I'm nourishing my skin, I'm taking care of myself, and it takes seconds using the products I already have. So, thinking about how you can incorporate those little moments into your day. And the best way for incorporating things like this is by something called habit stacking. And that is where we add a new habit onto an already established habit. So, for example, I have habit stacked taking my medication and supplements when I brush my teeth. So, my medicine box is next to my toothbrush and toothpaste because I know that I'm not going to leave the house without brushing my teeth. I'm not going to go to bed without brushing my teeth. So, by having that visual prompt of my medicine containers by my toothbrush, I know that I'm not going to forget to take them. So, thinking about how can you tag peace into your day. When Harry was really little, I kept a gratitude journal, and just before I turned the light off to go to sleep, I would pick up my journal, which was on my bedside table, and try and think of 3 things I was grateful for that day. And that was my routine. So it's thinking about how you can couple a new habit to help you with your peace onto something you're already doing, because it then takes away the remembering. And try and set things up to make them as simple as possible. So, like I said, about having things nearby, having them in the location of where you're going to do the thing. If your calm is a guided meditation, having that saved somewhere easily accessible, a link on the home screen of your phone, for example, or as a saved bookmark, or having it downloaded as an MP3 on your phone, somewhere where you can easily locate it. Just remove the friction, make this as simple as possible to get your peace back. I really encourage you for the next week and beyond, obviously, but really try to intentionally create some peace. And even if it's 30 seconds, even if it's a few minutes, whatever it is, it's a start and it's something that will grow. And I don't necessarily notice the day by day changes, but I have interactions with family members, friends, etc. And I notice how I would have responded differently in the past and how I have evolved. And not saying that they haven't, but just how I'm responding differently. And I'm coming from a different place. I'm not immediately going defensive or immediately jumping to conclusions or immediately going, the world is ending. So I encourage you to really think about how you can create your retreat within and bring more peace into your life. And just remember that overwhelm is not a sign of failure. We're just responding and we're doing our best in a world that is, quite frankly, oversaturated with information and stimuli and drama. And I really hope that this episode has given you some tips to cultivate more peace in your life. And if you have enjoyed this episode, please do share it with a friend. Please write me a review or send me a message on Insta just telling me your thoughts. It means the absolute world to hear from listeners. And if you've got any questions, also please just shoot them over in a DM, in an email. All of my details are in the show notes. So wishing you a wonderful, peaceful week. Take care. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Empowered by Claudia podcast. I'm Claudia from claudiasabinawellness.com. If you are ready to take your next step and transform your life, all the ways to connect with me, whether for coaching, courses, or any other sort of support, are in the show notes or on my website at www.claudiasabinawellness.com. If you found value in this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review, share it with a friend, or post about it on social media. Don't forget to tag me at Claudia_Sabina_wellness. Your support helps more people discover the tools and guidance they need. I cannot wait to support you on your journey. Much love.